All right, everyone out there in internet land, um, welcome to. This doesn't really have a name. If this show has a name, it's going to pop up right now. I'm here with my co-host Anthony, and we're big
Hello.
fans. We're big fans of 2001, and I decided last week. I've been watching a lot of sci-fi movies, and was like, I rewatched 2001. I'm like, this is just an incredible movie. I haven't seen it in a couple of years, and I watched it again. And it was like I watched it for the first time. I was just seeing all this stuff. I'm like, all right, I need to contact Anthony. I need to get him to rewatch it, and we need to talk about this. So that's what we did, and I kind of wrote like I probably wrote way too many notes, but it's like a scene. I pretty much like wrote scene by scene, like scene notes.
That's good, man, because I just watched it. Hey, I just watched it. I've seen it like 10 times. So.
Yeah. All right. So, movie opens. We're just going to cut straight to the chase. Movie opens. It does something that only a few other movies I've ever seen do. It has like the tone set up, right? It's just a black screen with some really creepy music. And I mean, I'm surprised I've never noticed this before. I mean, I don't even like do drugs anymore, but I'm surprised that I never noticed this while I was on drugs. But the TV itself, the monitor, the screen, like looks like a big monolith, like a big horizontal monolith, and like the music it plays sounds like the same kind of music that the monolith plays whenever the humans get close to it.
Yes, it's like you're staring at one.
Yeah, it's like you're staying, and it's horizontal, and you only see a horizontal monolith once, and that's when it acts as like a gateway. So I don't know. I was just like, interesting. So is Kubrick saying that the screen is the gateway? I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah, we just entered a new dimension, brother.
So yes, cuts to camera painting over the moon. Has all the aligned planets, which is a reoccurring thing. It's like whenever things align, that's when the monolith is going to be present. Which of course, it's always the vertical, not always the vertical, but it's like with that vertical, like the verticality of the monolith, then you have the verticality of the aligned planets.
Yeah.
And then that great song plays, the song that everyone knows from 2001, the Thus Spake Zarathustra.
Yeah, pretty epic.
It's just an incredible song. I mean, it plays three times in the movie, and every time it plays, it's at the most, the most like biggest points of evolution, right?
Like the most awe-inspiring, whoa, we're making leaps.
I mean, even the song itself is based on an it's like a song devoted to this Nietzschean book, this Friedrich Nietzsche book, that's pretty much about how man as a race is just kind of a bridge between animals and something superior. So like even in an esoteric way, like the song fits perfectly. It's like, wait a minute, that's what the movie is about.
Yeah.
So yes, Act 1, the dawn of man. You start like just the barren earth. This is really cool. It settles on a graveyard, and the camera fixes right on the skeleton of one of the ape people, right? One of the hominids. So right there, you know that they have no memory for the dead. They have no sense of time. They have no sense. They're just animals, right? I mean, even freaking elephants have like graveyards, right? But you just see this dead. You just see this dead ape man.
Just lying there where he fell.
Yeah, it's just where he fell. Humans at this point have no real memory, and that cuts to the hominids like scavenging, and they're like scavenging alongside those little pig. I forgot what they're called, tapirs, something. The little weird pig things, and it shows that like I mean the humans at this point they're still the lowest rung of the ladder, because they're just scavenging like tiny pieces of whatever grass they could find, whatever fruit they could find.
Yeah.
And then suddenly from above, always from above, this is important, above, I think it's a leopard, some type of big cat. I think it's a leopard. A leopard jumps from a cliff and tackles one of the ape people, and kills it. And it's like, great.
Yeah.
Again, like showing that hierarchy of the ape people bottom, predator top. Again, with the hierarchy.
That was a real cat, yeah.
Oh yeah, that had to have been like the animal trainer in the monkey suit, because
yeah,
it's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah,
like
I wouldn't do that.
Like nowadays, it would all just be like sterile and CGI, and it just wouldn't look good.
Yeah,
and that guy got tackled by a freaking jungle cat in a monkey suit.
Yeah.
Another cool detail. This comes later, but the jaguar, his eyes. Every time you see the jaguar, they're glowing white.
Yeah, they gleam.
Yeah, they gleam glowing white, which will come back later in the movie. I found really interesting.
Oh,
cool. So then it fades out. It fades into the water hole. And there's a train.
Nice. Please
forgive the train. It's annoying as hell. They're all around this water hole. It's this group, this enclosed group of 8 people. And there's some infighting, but they tend to just peacefully share the water hole. And from above, the cliffside, another group of 8 people come. I'm just going to call them the others. They're just others.
Right.
They come from above to below, and the leader of the others, he doesn't attack. Like, there's no violence in this. He just starts kind of dancing and like just non-verbally communicating that, hey, I'm stronger and get out of here or I'm gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
There's no violence though, which is an interesting point that I'll get to later. Let's see. One thing I noticed, when they chase off the group and then the others are taking over the water hole, the leader of the others looks back and like looks straight at the camera and like roars right at the like he's like looking right like at the audience. It's just a funny little, which again comes back later. This movie has a lot of repeating visual motifs, which I think one of the themes is like this, the cycling, like the cyclical nature of evolution. Like things just, and none of this new. Like it's going to repeat and repeat again. So they get chased out of their hole, out of their watering hole, and they're forced to live in this rocky outcrop. And above, on the top of this rocky outcrop, is that jaguar with his eyes glowing white. He's eating zebra, I think. And the hominids are forced to live in the crevices and the bottom of this rocky outcrop. Now you can tell, like, I like this part because it like shows all, it kind of pans through all the monkey people, and they all look just like super scared. It's like they hear this growling of this jaguar from above, and it closes on the shot of one of them. I suspect is the leader, and he has like superhuman eyes, and he's kind of shifting them back and forth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That shot always weird. Yeah, the shot always like the lighting and like he's kind of looking up at the moon and just kind of like, yeah. Again, looking up. Like they're on the bottom, they're looking up. Morning comes. One of them awakens, which I'm just pretty much. I think the leader. He's just the guy who kind of moves this nonverbal story along. He wakes up and off screen. He's startled by something off screen. And he starts screaming at it, and it cuts to one of my favorite shots in the movie. That beautiful composed shot of like the hominids cave hole, and then the monolith sticking out, and then there's the beautiful sunrise coming to the right of it. It's like the monolith is facing the sun. It's a beautiful shot.
And the monolith is like, it's like superimposed into the shots, but it looks so cool that way. Like it looks painted almost.
Yeah, well, yeah, because Arthur C. Clarke in the book, which is just kind of interesting, the development of the film. Like they wrote the book together. They wrote the book at the same time as they were writing the movie.
Whoa, that's weird.
Yeah, so it's like the book is kind of like an alternate kind of interpretation of the story, which is interesting because the monolith in the book is, if I remember correctly, it's like clear.
Oh, okay.
Which is definitely not as imposing as a giant matte black rectangle. There's just something like super alien about. But yeah, they wake up and they see this monolith, and they all start freaking out. This is interesting because they're buried below in their little cave area, and the monolith is sticking out from the bottom upwards, and they don't go right up to the bottom of it. They actually rise up to meet it face to face. So it's like this is the moment of their evolution where they've been on the bottom the whole time. Things are always attacking them from the bottom. The leader goes to sleep looking up at the moon, and then wakes up, and then they see this monolith, and they actually rise to meet it. But they don't just rise to meet it. When they rise to meet it, they immediately go back down and touch it. So it's like, again, this circular thing, which I'll go into later. It's like this, once an evolutionary moment is hit, it's like it resets, and they have to go back to the bottom. Which will make sense later. But it's great because the leader touches it first, and the way they touch it, they don't touch the flat spot. They touch the corners. They touch the edges, which is really interesting because, I mean, what's more unnatural than straight lines? Like straight lines don't exist in nature. So like they see this giant straight edged thing, and they're just like, what the hell is that? And pretty much all of our technology is built out of straight lines. Like all of our culture is built out of straight lines. You know, like the paper we write on. Language itself is based on straight lines. Like everything that we invented is all based on straight lines, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was young, like 16. I just started driving. I was cruising around town one day, and I was just like, "Oh man, we're constantly looking at like right angles and just construction and
it doesn't exist.
Like, this is
in the natural.
Probably not.
Yeah,
probably not great. I mean, it's part of the evolution, but it still is a little stark, like to go out and see all this shit. It's like, man.
Yeah, and it's really it's an interesting like design choice to make the monolith this angular object. One, because it looks alien compared to the natural world, and plus, like what a perfect image for like the spurring on of evolution, like this thing that will affect everything going forward. So yeah, they all go touch it. That crazy freaking song plays, which my headcanon is that weird like cacophony of hymns.
Oh, dude, that's so awesome.
Like that is coming from the monolith. Like my headcanon is that's coming from the monolith. Like like they're just like hearing this. To me that's like the whatever intelligence like trying to speak. But that's all we hear. Let's see. It cuts to the hominid's POV looking up the monolith, and then you see another alignment of the monolith, and then the moon, and then or the sun, and then the moon. So cut to the leader at the graveyard, and he's at those bones. I think it would have been better if they were those ape-man bones, but it looks like they're like pig bones. But either way, the analogy works. Like he's looking at the bones, and then he suddenly gets a flash. You get a flash of that alignment of the monolith, and he gets the idea. It's beautiful because it's like man does this later, but they use death to defeat death. Like he uses the first thing he uses to
stop
kill
to keep
to keep is something that is dead. I don't know. I think again that comes by letter with Hal. It's like I have the whole other theory on Hal and how he's kind of the ultimate bone in a weird sense. But yeah, it's funny, interesting that like they defeat death using death. And again, the Space Odyssey plays when you and it's like intercut with one of those pigs dying. So yeah, they're able to like eat meat. They can eat whenever they want now because they're like, hey, we can kill things now. Yay! So with this newfound power, this new found like raising up in the hierarchy because now they can kill. They've already attacked the pigs from above. Now they go back to the watering hole, and it's them this time who comes from above down to get the watering hole back. And they confront the others, and the leader of the others is still like doing his little dance. Look how strong I am. And then the leader just mops him in the head, which is it's really like when you look at it, it's just like it's all unprovoked. Like this guy, like he didn't like he's just like he just scared him off, and then he comes back with a bone and just kills him. And then
like there's no coming back and saying, hey man, you better leave now. It's just you're dead.
It's like the whole like there's like a communication breakdown because before it was like the communication, it was a nonviolent communication of, hey, I'm stronger, look at me dance, and then they're backed off. But now, like, he has a tool, he has a bone, he can make his own way. And they all take turns, like, being the dead body to show, hey, we can all do this.
And then in that altercation, I can't remember, did they leave any of the others alive?
No, they all ran off.
They just okay.
They killed them.
So they witnessed that now.
Yeah.
And now they know about it.
Now they know. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And, like, that was, like, the first instance of war. I was basically like an analog of like Cain and Abel. You know, it's like the first murder. Yeah. Basically the first murder which just happened. Which is really interesting. I can go into a whole like thing about the symbology of that, but yes.
Yeah, because things have gotten killed before, but it's food chain.
Yeah, it's always exactly. It's always been like, but in a way, like it's like they needed that water hole too.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's again, it's like it's like what you can do with your bone to complete the mission. Again, that was going to come back and Hal too, because what man is willing to do with his bone to get the mission done? And sometimes bones are really complicated looking. You know, sometimes they seem like they're alive, but we'll get to that later.
You're making me want to watch this again.
And it's such a great movie, man. And then in Victory, he throws the bone up. Classic scene. There's another thing I noticed because you always think like he throws the bone up and then there's a jump cut, but it's actually like he throws the bone up, and then the bone comes down, and then there's a jump cut. So it's like the motion is bone up, bone down, satellite, and then it shows the satellite coming down, which is interesting because it's not really shown in detail in the movie, but in the book, the satellite that is cut to is actually a nuclear satellite, which has all sorts of implications, right? Like this, he throws the bone up in the air, and then like it comes down, but it comes down as a nuclear weapon. It's nice. I like to think that was a nuclear satellite. It just adds to
it. Absolutely is.
Yeah, it totally is. But yeah, that great waltz, the waltz song plays da 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 to like montages of different satellites. This is cool because it shows multiple. It shows like 4 different satellites. Now, like you could say like, oh, that's just because it's like the late '60s and satellite technology was kind of new and interesting. But one of the major themes, the theme kind of starts here, is communication and memory. It's like a big theme in the movie. So like the first thing you see in this millions of years later, like after the evolutionary jump, man has taken the tool, taken the bone, and it again later when it jumps a little later, it shows the floating pin. After this, inside Floyd's ship, there's like a floating pin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so connect those 3 images. You have the bone floating, you have the satellite floating, then you have the pin floating. So it's like the bone has become, it's more like backwards. It's like the bone becomes the ability to remember things. Which remember that dead ape man at the beginning. No one remembered him, right? And they didn't.
Yeah, now they remembered him.
Yeah, like now we have the power to. So the tools didn't just change us physically; it changed our minds, and now we're able to like use language, and we use language to create technology. And now that we have like communication satellites are basically big pins, right? Big, basically just big communication things that remember and transmit data, right? And that's what a pin does. A pin just records and transmits data. That's all it does. It jumps to it jumps to the new bones, which is mass communication. And then it cuts to.
That's very ahead of its time.
It really is.
The movie was made.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was like a lot of things in this movie I've seen watching it again. I'm like, wow, he's like on the ball when it comes to like futurism. Like what we should be worried about is not like, because everyone took away from this movie like AI is what we should be worried about, but that's not what we should be worried about. That's not what the movie is about.
Yeah.
The movie's about we should be afraid of ourselves because we need to defeat ourselves before we could, save ourselves. It cuts to the wheel-like space station, which again, like the wheel, the cyclical nature of evolution. It's interesting that they play a waltz. It's like they play this waltz for like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because a waltz is like, it's that 3-beat dance, this circular kind of rhythm already, and it's just such a happy little. Waltzes are always really happy, so it's like you're seeing all this technology and you're hearing this beautiful, fanciful waltz music. And you watch it and you're like, wow, the future looks so cool. Wow, this is so romantic. Wow. Because I think that's how like the image that it shows, like the front layer that we see when we see all this technology and then this beautiful waltz music. We're like, wow, I can't wait for the future to get here. That's what they thought in 1968, right? Like, wow, look at this technology.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It juxtaposes the brutal realism of technology. It's like, wow, this is so beautiful, and I can't wait. Let's romanticize technology, but had nuclear weapons too. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's a very interesting song style to play about the dangers of misuse of technology. He definitely did that on purpose. He didn't just put it in there to make it look cool. Like he wanted us to think like, oh man, people do romanticize technology. Like,
like is this payoff worth everything else we do with it? Because it's pretty fucking horrible.
Yeah, like we can do some really bad things with our bones. That's what she said.
Yeah.
So yeah, Floyd is in his little ship. He's going towards the space station in his little floating pen. And that's kind of funny because like Floyd's strapped in, but he's kind of floating a little bit too. He's just kind of held in by the straps, and he kind of looks like he's like a baby in embryonic fluid or something. I thought it was just so funny. Thought it was just a funny like end cap to like, oh, babies in space, funny. So they dock with the station, and the first words you hear in the whole movie, you think they'd be like some like, you know, monumental like, blah blah blah, but it's just like some service industry woman in an elevator going like, you know, here you are, sir, main level, please. Like, it's like you're supposed to be in this like big futuristic. I mean, this was like 40 years in the future when it was made, and it's like the first words you hear are like the service industry. I don't know if that was a jab. I don't know if that was a jab and like to like capitalism or something, but I thought it was pretty funny. It's like, some things never change. All right, and they go in and they go to that video screen to do their voice recognition, and this is the first instance where we see the monitor, and the monitors are also a good visual cue because they always look like monoliths. Always look like monoliths. All the screens look like monoliths. They're either horizontal, mostly vertical. There's a few the horizontal ones are almost always white. Horizontal ones are white. Vertical ones are it's an interesting. I don't know if you did that like a visual inversion, like the man-made horizontal ones are white, but the alien-made ones are black. I'm not sure if there's any. But yeah, it's the first time we see like a monolith-shaped piece of technology, which happens a lot. And Floyd stops to take a call for his daughter's birthday, which is really interesting. I didn't notice until this last time I watched it, but it's his daughter's birthday, and on the same day he goes to the moon to get in contact with the monolith, right? Cut 18 months later, it's Frank's birthday, and later they come in contact with the monolith again. So it's like, I don't know, what are the odds of two characters in the movie having birthdays on two very important, auspicious days? It's like, I think it's just like a story embodiment of like the alignment thing. It's like everything just kind of synchronizes, like the planets aligning. That was
on weird. Your birthday.
On your birthday.
It was that hominid's birthday. That night, he's looking at the moon. He's like, "Man, my birthday's gonna suck."
Nobody remembered my birthday.
Nobody remembers anything, dude.
Oh yeah, no one remembers anything. Wait, what did I say?
Yeah, I'm hungry.
All right, so on his way to his meeting, Floyd is stopped by a group of Russian scientists. And I remember watching this. I remember watching this scene, you know, before, like in the past, just like this is just a boring scene. Like, what does this scene have to do with anything? But watching it again, it's like a super important scene because this is another instance of reoccurrence. Like instead of the others trying to take the water hole from the 8 people with nonviolence, it's the Russians trying to glean out information using speech. So it's like these, like the water, like fights over water holes still exist. It's like nothing has been solved. It's like there's still. Oop, are you good? No, I froze. It's like it never. It's like we evolved, but we're still. And of course, this came out like. This came on the edge of the Cold War, right? So like, what perfect imagery for like how war will never end. We're like, oh, remember those apes that killed each other over the watering hole? But we're still doing it.
Yeah,
we're still doing it.
And it's like that first instance was nonviolent, you know, with the little ape dance and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's nonviolent, but it's not. You're not doing like an aggressive like intimidation. True. It's an underhanded like, hey, what's going on, buddy? What you up to?
It's true because they're like super nice to Floyd, and then when he leaves, they just look at each other and they're just like, blah blah blah. They just start talking mad trash in Russian. Yeah, they're civil. They're civil. Again,
Yeah.
like deceiving. Like it's again. This is like a again. This ties into like the theme of like communication and memory, and like using those to deceive people.
But you know what? That the watering hole thing, it kind of was a deception because he acted tough,
but
when it came down to brass tacks,
he wasn't. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's all deception. Yeah, that's very very true. Yeah, the bones change, but the situation's always the same, right?
Yeah, it's like wow, it's like yeah, you can show up and act tough, and you can also show up with a weapon. But in either instance, you better be ready to either pull your trigger or whatever, because if you don't, just screw yourself.
Because the A-Man, he was the only one with a bone. But now everyone's got a bone, and they got big bones.
Yeah, everyone's got a bone. So if you're gonna break your bone out, you better be ready to use it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great.
Bone deterrence.
Yeah, exactly right. Bone deterrence. Oh, one thing I noticed when they're around the table watering hole, whenever the man is like really trying to push the issue to Floyd, it's like he's like, what's really going on up there? What's really going on up there? And Floyd's just like, I can't tell you. Like the woman adjacent from Floyd, her hands are like this, and she does this. She makes like a gun, like a gun. Yeah, very very subliminal. Like she's just like points it right at him. And it's just like, ooh, there's that subliminal civil discourse, right? I don't know. This just genius movie, man. It's so full of tiny little morsels. So Floyd flies to the moon. Again, like we were talking about the highest points. Now it's like, yes, man rose to meet the monolith on Earth, and he was able to dominate his surroundings, and he was able to evolve. But now the newest highest point is the moon. So he's going to the moon, all the way to the moon, to meet the monolith, just like the ape-men did. The ape-men went to the highest point to meet the monolith. Let's see. This is the funny thing. Like, while they're flying there, there's a quick cut of Floyd staring like really intensely at a monolith, just a monolith with the inscriptions of how to use a 0G toilet.
Oh yeah.
I just thought that was a really interesting like cut to put in. It's like, okay, you have this monolith of like how to shit.
Yeah, right.
It's like humans. It's almost like technology is so far ahead of the people creating it that they don't even know. Like most people don't even know how to use it. Like you need to read an instructional manual to poop. Like technology is too far ahead, man. Like if you have to read a manual to poop, we need to slow down.
Yeah. Before that whole party kicked off, he just pooped.
Yeah, you just poop whatever. You just poop whatever.
Probably didn't even wipe. He just pooped. And now it's like, not only is it like, hey, go get to a bathroom, you filthy animal, but now you're in space, so it's like, go to this weird bathroom that you don't know how to use. Yeah, they might suck your ass out.
Yeah. And he's just looking at it like,
he's like, all right.
Love that scene. And the ship itself that he's on, the little like globular ship, there's a point where it's like coming down onto the moon to land. It looks like a skull, like it has like two little points of light and these little ridges on the bottom. Looks like a skull again with the bones. So this like skull's coming down onto the moon, which is, I mean, it's probably just reading into it, but it's like man's strength got him to evolve on Earth, but now man's intellect is allowing him to reach the next monolith, which, I mean, the intellect is housed within the skull, so it's like they're reaching the next step on a human skull. They're using intellect to to go to the highest level, basically. I don't know. I don't know if that's too far-fetched, but it seems like it's like a jump from like...
Totally.
Because they were able to like... The only reason they were able to like evolve before, while they were on Earth, is just pure strength. You know, just picking out the bone, bashing the hell out of him. But this time, they used their noggin to be able to get... It's interesting. It's like the monoliths are like checkpoints. It's like, all right, man, can you make it up there?
Next round, yeah.
And we made it. We used our brain. What are we doing now? Jupiter? That's really far away, man.
Yeah. And the thing is like you can't ask, like, well, what's next? Because you don't comprehend what's next. You don't.
No,
it's
exactly.
not
Exactly what's like where, you know, the last act is called Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite. Like, you can't imagine what's next. You can't imagine. But yes, they get to the moon, or he gets to the moon, and they go to that meeting room, which this is where the four... It's like the walls are big, white, light rectangles, basically just big. They're big horizontal monoliths on the sides of the wall. I'm guessing it's on all four walls because it seems like, because our POV of the room is set back further than the rest of the walls, so it's like we're the monolith watching outwards or something like that. It's the way the scene is set up is it's kind of fourth wall breaking because it seems like we're the wall watching them instead of like at a weird angle. It's a very strange.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's like
you're sitting behind Floyd. Yeah. You're behind Floyd and a couple other dudes that are there talking with each other, and there's also that like candid like where they're all murmuring before the meeting starts.
Yeah,
and you're just there looking at it. You're like, oh, hey,
Floyd and Bill. Dudes. Yeah, that's another thing.
That's... And then, he goes up to talk and everything, and then he leaves the room, and it's like,
what was
just there?
Yeah, you're left there. Yeah. It's like you're the monolith looking. I don't know why that was chose. I don't know what the white monoliths represent in adverse to the black horizontal monolith. Maybe like man's attempt to mimic the monolith. I'm not sure. But yes, he gets up, and he gives a speech about how they're halting and manipulating communication and information. That's basically what the whole talk is about, which is really creepy. They talk about it so like casually, and like again with communication. Like we see the satellites, we see the pin, we know that mankind's current state is focused on communication and memory. And then this scene is basically the powers that be manipulating communication and information, which I think is like kind of the limits. It's like the limits of our evolution at that point, because we can't get past that limit. And it's kind of true in real life. Like we always think and say like, I mean, the world could be a utopia if people would stop, you know, lying and murdering. It's like the only thing stopping us is ourselves, right? So it's like this evolution is like that's the limit. The limit is like the powers that be manipulating information. And it's even at one point they say, Floyd said he's worried about information of the existence of the monolith without proper conditioning of the public. That's creepy as hell, man.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like that's, and it's said so casually that like I've never really noticed it before, because he's just like, oh, without proper conditioning. It's like, what kind of world is this?
Dude,
what kind of world is this?
Haywood Floyd's fucking charisma is like...
He is so charismatic. Yeah,
because I buy a car from him.
Seriously, because like you meet him and you like like this whole act is like from his point of view, and you're following him, and he seems like a really nice guy. And then you get to his meeting that he's been trying to get to, and it's just like, we should continue lying to the people of Earth. It's like, and we should.
And all those bigwigs are like, yes, we should.
Yes, we should. And you know, there's even manipulation within this council itself, because you said before, like, you know, the camera is set back and you see Floyd and Bill, and it's before he gets up and talks, and Bill and Floyd are kind of just like talking to each other, and they obviously have a repertoire, right? They're obviously like blah, 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 blah. And then Floyd gets up and talks, and then they're like, does anyone have any questions? And Bill asks a question, but he asks a really like I should have written down what the question. He was really like innocuous. Like I think it was like, well,
Oh yeah, it was
how long do you think this is gonna last? Like it just
like, what? Yeah, like
it just seems really like he seems like a plant. It seemed like a planted question. Like I don't know. I just get like a weird vibe with Bill. I'm just like they're lying. Like they're manipulating the rest of the council. I don't know. That's just like a feeling I get from Bill and Floyd. But yeah, I think the fact that they're buddy and then like Bill asks a question like he doesn't even know Floyd, super weird. So they fight a Tycho, the crater. Again,
such a cool scene.
Again, the cinematography in this movie is just amazing,
It's
and
so
like
good, man.
it's just like wow. Like the part where they're walking down the ramp and it's like a handy cam shot,
Yeah.
and you see the monolith beside them and they're
dude.
walking down. Just wow, just incredible movie. And again, the monolith, just like with the apes, it's buried in this cave area, like kind of sticking out. And again, they're coming from above. It's like they went to the moon using their intellect, and then they went down again into the pit to meet the monolith. Let's see. That'll lose you.
Hello.
Oop, that'll lose you.
A little bit. Yeah, I think you're back.
All right.
Yeah.
What did you miss anything when I said?
We were just talking about the awesome scene where they're walking down to the crater and how awesome it is.
But yeah, it's like they use again. I don't know if you heard it, but like they use their intellect to go up, just like the apes use their strength to go up, and then they went down to meet the monolith. Just like the apes did. Again, with like reoccurring. I know it's all about like it's a very imagery driven movie because there's not a lot of dialogue. So if you just sit there and actually just like watch what's going on, like it's just like a repeating pattern of things. But yeah, they touch the monolith again. And this is an interesting speculation, but like, do you think that the human suits were in the way when they touched the monolith, or it's like, because it seems like their bone, it seems like their bone, their technology, is in the way of their evolution right now.
Maybe. Hello.
I got you. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello? All right. I didn't get any of what you said.
Me neither. Okay. It cut off pretty bad. But you were asking me if I thought the suits were in the way when they touched it. I think that's pretty plausible because nothing happened.
Yeah.
And it's either that or they just weren't chosen. Like it's kind of like, hey, like they just showed up and it's like, well, I'm not looking for you guys.
Yeah.
But then we used the information we gathered to like go up to Jupiter and shit.
Yeah, because it seems like the technology, our bones, are in the way of us evolving. So like the suits represent that barrier between us and our future, basically, which is the monolith. It's like when they touch it, nothing seems to happen. Because when the apes touch it, the next scene is them suddenly getting an epiphany that leads to their evolution. But in this one, it's like they touch it, and then they try to take a picture of it, which is interesting because they try to take a picture of it. They try to remember it, right? They try to contain the data. They try to do the things that was basically the kind of the fruit of human evolution at this point has been like the ability to remember things. So they're right before they take a picture, that signal pops out. Which like you said, like this, it wasn't meant for them. Now maybe when they touched it, it seemed to activate the signal. Because if it wasn't meant for them, it would have been a horizontal one, and it would have been a Stargate, and the movie would have been over. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like this alien intelligence knew that they weren't ready. They knew that their technology would get in the way. So yeah, they set up the whole. Okay, man, if you can get to Jupiter and you can survive your bones trying to kill you, then you can come in. Okay.
It really does feel like because the scene starts up. They're walking down to it. It's you're like, oh shit, here we go, and they go up to it. They touch it, but they don't touch it because they have their suits on.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, all right, so nothing. I mean, nothing. That would have, like you said, been the end of the movie. So so since that's not happening, they're like, all right, let's just get a picture, and that thing's like,
for posterity. Yeah, they get a picture for posterity, and it's great because like the signal comes out, and they're all in pain, and then there's just a sharp jump cut to 18 months later. Like there's no like, it's like, then it's like 18 months later. Yeah, that's all that happened. It's like they didn't really get anything out of it except that there's a signal going towards Jupiter. Super cool.
So that's 18 months later.
Yeah, 18 months later, the discovery, which looks like a giant bone, like it straight up looks like a bone. It also looks like a sperm, which is also goes into like the imagery of rebirth. Like Dave flies the sperm into the giant egg, which is Jupiter, and then rebirth.
Oh yeah, space baby.
Space baby. It's pretty blatant. It's like that's a giant sperm.
That's how you make a space baby.
That's how you make a space baby. But it's also a bone. It's a bone in a boner. And it cuts to the shot of Dave running again in circles. Forever running in circles. And you see the other crew, the ones in suspended animation. Which is really interesting because they look like they're in like sarcophagus, right? They look like they're in like tombs, little coffins.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because ancient man didn't bury their dead, but in the future they bury their living.
Oh man, yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Think about that. That's an interesting inversion, right? It's like what? Oh. That's interesting. Yeah, it's like again like technology, and really in a way like remembrance itself. It's like mankind is so afraid to not remember things, to not remember their dead, that it's almost like an out of control remembrance where they bury their own living. I don't know. It's an interesting imagery of like seeing like a skeleton forgotten, and then like a living person in suspended animation in a tomb.
Yeah, and they could, even though that they are going to get reanimated, they're losing that life.
Yeah, they ain't getting that back.
Because they're still losing those months or years, whatever.
And then we cut to Frank and Dave watching on two monoliths. This is great. I love this scene. Like they're sitting down at the same table, eating their space food. They each have their own little monolith iPad, and they're both watching the exact same interview of themselves. Now, if that isn't like indicative of modern culture, I don't know what is. Like, what's more modern culture than me sitting down again? Because like, look, what does this look like to you?
Oh yeah. Check mine out, bro.
Yeah, what does this look like? And what do I do on it all day? What do I do on it all day?
Oh yeah.
I look at it, and I look at myself again with like the mirror. When you turn it off, all you see is yourself. Yeah. So it's like they're looking at these monoliths. Yeah, they're looking at these two monoliths of the same interview of themselves at the same time. It's just like. It's such like, why? You guys could both be watching this on one monitor. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, I've always said like a cell phone, man. Like when you see people stuck in their phones and stuff, just imagine if it was actually not displaying anything.
Yeah.
Like, all you're doing is standing and tapping a rectangle for hours sometimes.
Just like those monkeys, right?
Like that. Yeah. Yeah, touching. Ooh,
and again, we're so obsessed with like, and again with like online. This is really interesting because it's like the phone itself, like smartphones, again is like a distorted use of remembrance because we're so constantly obsessed with portraying our personas online. We're so obsessed with keeping memories online and taking photos and taking videos. Millions of hours of videos are online. It's just like, it's like, wow, like what the heck, Kubrick? Like, are you from the future?
Yeah.
Oh, this is very interesting. In the interview, you're introduced to Hal. Um, I love but Hal itself. Hal itself is a monolith. He's embedded in a monolith,
Mhm.
and he has a single eye, which entails no depth perception. He's single-minded, and he's not actually sentient. That's my theory. My theory is Hal is not actually sentient. Um,
Right.
that'll come. I'll explain it as the movie goes on. But yeah, I don't think he's actually sentient. He just appears to be sentient, like a mirror. The mirror appears to be you, but it is not you.
But it's not.
And he sees everything in that fisheye. He sees everything. He sees what we see, but it's distorted, and it's not a complete.
Yeah.
It's not a complete image. It's just this weird, distorted version.
Yeah. Like,
And I love it
yeah.
because Hal presents himself as this emotional creature. He's like, the interviewer is like, "Do you actually have emotions?" And Dave's like, "Well, there's no way to know if he actually does or not." And when Hal talks, he's very like eloquent and very like studious and very emotional.
Thank
But
you.
then,
And
yeah, but then when you cut to not on the interview, but like throughout the whole movie, Frank and Hal are super emotionless, like deadpan. And immediately goes into the next scene because Frank is lying on his little sunbed or whatever the hell that is, and he gets a message from his parents for his birthday, and it's playing, and his parents are really emotional, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Frank, happy birthday, we love you, blah blah blah," and Frank is just like,
yeah,
he's just like, not emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like Hal has become like this distorted mirror of what a human should be, and the humans have become. I mean, we can only like kind of. Obviously, the older generation still has emotions like his parents, but we can assume that this current generation of humans are very cold, and they're very, very cold.
Yeah.
Cold enough to make a robot look like an actual human, which I think if they were actually, which is interesting because if they were actually played as like emotionful people, Hal wouldn't look as real.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Hal wouldn't seem as human if Dave and Frank were more like emotional.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, yeah, it's like, yeah, he couldn't exist if they were up on, if it was like, if they're cracking jokes or
yeah, he would seem like just a robot.
Yeah, it's like whatever. Like,
yeah, oh, that's silly robot. He thinks he's human, but
yeah, but this that does help.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hal and Frank are playing chess, and he bluffs Frank into quitting. This is Hal's first little like test into like, can I deceive these people?
Yeah.
Because his mission, Hal kind of has a twofold mission. He has to get to Jupiter, and he has to not let those two crew members know what the mission is. And I think because like he can't do both of those things at the same time because they're conflicting.
Right.
So this is like him like kind of testing the waters. This is the first time we see him because it's not a total lie. He just bluffs. He's like, oh, this to that to this to that, checkmate. And then Frank's like, yeah, you're right. Which also shows like, I mean, humanity is just willing to just roll over, right? Oh, I guess you're right.
And
Whatever.
and he wasn't really like, that's how, like, I don't know what the word would be, but he's not even into the game.
Yeah.
If you're trying to win, you'd say, "Nah, fuck you, Hal. You're wrong."
Yeah.
But he was just like, "Oh, yeah,
Frank,
you're right."
Frank is just disconnected. He's just like, yeah, you win. And like,
Yeah,
he didn't think any of it, but that was how, can I deceive
yeah,
these people? Which he's doing for the mission. Everything Hal does is for the mission because that's the way he's programmed. Let's see. So then Frank goes to sleep and Dave wakes up. Dave's like drawing all the sleeping people. Hal, I can only imagine, pretends to be interested. He does a different approach to Dave. He like almost tries to get like a psych profile on him. He's like, he pretends to be interested in his art, and he tries to talk to him about his feelings about the secrecy of the mission and stuff. I know that's just like him just kind of prodding, see if he can lie, if he can continue lying.
dude. Yeah, and like, I'm sure you've lied before in your life at some point. So when you do that, what I've learned is that when you formulate a lie, even if it's a quick one, gets you through it
again.
Whatever. All right. Yeah, and it makes you think a lot more than it was worth. Oh, hello?
Yeah, we froze again. Am I all right?
Okay. Yeah, you're good.
All right. Saying poor connection.
But yeah, it keeps popping up like every 10, 15 minutes. But yeah, lying makes your head cycle, and it's not good for you.
No.
And so I can only imagine a fucking supercomputer with his first lie.
Yeah. Who's
not getting caught and not getting caught. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he must be going all day and all night just calculating the most fucked up scenarios. How am I going to get away with this? How can I pull this off? I have to complete both missions, but it's impossible. Like, how did he not fry?
Yeah. Well, eventually he tries to fry the crew. No, that's his eventual like reason. He's like, if I just then boom, mission accomplished, right?
Yeah.
If I kill the crew, then I don't have to keep a secret, right? The end.
And I can take them to Jupiter, dead.
Oh man. So yeah, then Hal is like, oh, we have a malfunctioning part, which this I think is like the crux of like, is he totally lying or not? Because like, did he know? Did he totally make up the fact that it was that the part was actually failing, or did he make himself believe? Did he deceive himself? Just like humanity does, right? Like, because again, he's just a mirror. And again, with like going back to like the council, they're all lying to themselves, and they're lying to the public. And it's like, if humanity can't get beyond manipulating, information and memory, if it can't get beyond manipulating that stuff, then we can't evolve. And Hal is like the perfect. He's like the final boss of humanity, basically. Like, it's like. Let's see. Yeah, he's a mirror to the current humanity, using technology to expand and manipulate information. But like humanity, he cannot do this without murderous and destructive effects. So like humanity thinks, oh, we can create this ultimate bone that could do all the boning for us. No, because it's going to do exactly what you do. Yeah, he's the ultimate bone, but he's also us. Because it's like just like the spacesuits, the bone and us have become one. We're like, when we go into space, we travel in bones. When we're driving on the freeway, we're driving in bones. Like, it's like we and technology have become one.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. So they go out to retrieve the broken part in these little tiny pod ships. and they look like little skulls. Again, they just look like little skulls flying around.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, I love those little things. They bring the part back. They're like, this part is perfectly fine, bro. And I love this part because then again, just like the Cold War, this is another like, this has to be Cold War commentary right here because it's like they know Hal is lying, or at least he thinks he's not lying. So then Frank is like, "Hey, I think something's wrong with my pod. Could you help me? Take
Love
a look
that
at
scene.
it?" And like, so like they, you know what I mean? It's like a information war. You know what I mean? Like withholding information, disinformation, lying. Yeah, it's kind of surprising how much of a Cold War movie this really is. I mean, really, until you really delve into it, you're like, this is a Cold War movie.
Have you watched? Have you watched or I guess read 2010?
No. Well, I watched it once before.
Oh,
Yeah.
watch it again, dude.
I think I have a copy somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
watch it.
We'll have to do.
It's the cool.
We'll have to do a commentary on that one too.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
remember it not being nearly as beautiful of a movie.
No. It's a whole different animal.
It's a whole different beast, man.
But it's so cool. Like if somebody's gonna try to do something off of that movie, that's all I want.
It's based on the book, which is a sequel to the book version of the movie. It's very complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a cool watch.
All right. So yeah, the two secretly conspire against Hal. They go in the pod. Great scene. They go into the pod. This is just great because even they think Frank mentions it. Maybe it's Dave. One of them mentions that like Hal can't be he can't be lying because he offered the idea of putting the part back in until it broke and then need fixing. So it's like I don't think Hal knows that he is lying. Again, thinking like he's not actually sentient. He appears sentient, but he's just running the program. And the program is do this.
So his logic told him, well, let's use it until it actually breaks. But that contradicted what he just said.
Yeah.
It's bad.
I mean, he could be a burgeoning sentience. Like he could be like the monkeys in a sense. But I don't think he's like fully sentient. He's kind of like schizoid maybe. Maybe he's like half being controlled by man, half like a baby, doesn't really know what's going on.
I think his technology had the capacity for it, but all the fucking humanity, the deception and shit that we programmed into him.
Yeah, he's like
awesome.
Again, like he's like a mirror. He's like our child.
It's like
yeah. But is he fully sentient? I don't think he's fully sentient. But that doesn't take away the fact. It doesn't take away the fact that he's like it's a tragic kind of figure, you know, because he has no.
Yeah, because he
has no choice. Yeah.
Maybe if he grew.
Maybe if he grew and like we didn't, you know, program him to lie and, you know, deceit just like we do. Be just like your parents. Again, I think this is where Kojima got his like major theme of like be careful what you pass on, because like seriously with Hal, again, even Hal from Metal Gear, his driving force is I'm not going to be what was passed on to me. And unfortunately, Hal 9000 didn't get that choice. He didn't get the choice of I throw off my yoke of humanity because he just didn't get a chance to. He was in the way of
you don't get that choice if
yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. So yeah, then the two consider putting the part back in, and if it doesn't break, then they have to disconnect Hal. So basically, they're like, all right, we'll put it back in, and if it doesn't break, then we know Hal is lying to us. And this is the point where it shows Hal watching their lips move, which is like, how the heck does he know how to read lips? It's freaking weird. It's like, how do you do that? He's just been studying humanity. Smart. Yeah, he's just been studying humans. It's like, when you make your mouth a certain shape, noise comes out. Therefore, even if there's no audio, I can read the shapes of your mouth. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'll bet at some point, with all the conflict of his dual missions, he just sees them off in the cut and can't hear them, but he's like, I wonder what they're saying. I wonder if I can see what they're saying. I can see what they're saying. This is what they're saying.
So yeah, so people always like attribute this to like, this is the moment where like Hal goes mad and becomes fully sentient and like tries to protect himself in a state of like survival instinct. I don't think so. This is the point. This is like the kind of a sad part, because this is when like Hal loses that chance to not just be a program, and his mission takes over. Because I don't think he cares about self-preservation. I don't think that's what's driving him. But what's driving him is just his mission. He's like,
right.
If I'm disconnected, I can't complete the mission. Therefore, I need to kill these people.
I have to complete the mission.
I have to complete this mission. Yeah.
Said I have to complete it. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
That's so fucking. That's deep.
It's effed up, man. Yeah. All right, then it cuts to the intermission, which again is just like the opening. It's just like nice little black horizontal monolith with the same music and everything, the weird music. And then we get to Frank getting into his pod to put the not broken part back in to do their plan. And then suddenly Frank's pod is controlled by Hal. And this is great. Remember before when I said the leopard's glowing white eyes? Yeah. When Frank is killed, you see Frank's own bone. It's his own bone, his own technology, like, turn on him with glowing white eyes, and from above grab him and throw him. So it's like,
oh shit,
right?
Like the leopard coming down.
Like the leopard coming down. So it's like, it's just like, but instead of like the outside world, instead of mankind having to stave off the outside world,
it's himself.
Now it's ourselves and these bones that we've created.
Yeah, quite literally yourself. You can't blame shit else but people.
Anyone else. You can't blame anyone else. Oh man. Yeah, the glowing white eyes. I'm just like, what? Glowing white eyes. Oh my god.
Never noticed. Yeah, I'm watching this again. Like,
yeah, totally, dude. So then Dave gets into his pod, flies out to catch Frank. And Frank's already dead, obviously. But again, in remembrance, he goes out and grabs the body. Because if he was an ape man, he was just left the body there, right? But he goes out and gets it, which maybe Hal knew he would do. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
And this is great. Okay, again with like the whole concept of like, okay, so Hal represents kind of like the distorted use of memory, right? And communication and deceit. So Dave gets in his pod and he goes out and grabs him, and he tries to get back in, and Hal's like, I'm sorry, I can't let you do that, Dave. On shining from his control screen are 3 letters right on his face. MEM. Memory. So it's like it's just like right in your face, right? It's like,
jeez, yeah.
Right? It's like he's using like the memory, or like he's facing the memory, or like the bone. He's facing the bone that is using memory as a weapon or something like that. Like it's just like this weird imagery. I love the imagery of like him facing down Hal with shining on his face. I don't know. I think it's like super cool. It's like
yeah, because his screen is essentially it's Hal. It's all the technology.
It's all connected. So, it's like a smartphone, right? Like everything runs through Hal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like what? Like there's no other reason for that to display other than Hal wanted to throw it in his face.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
Yeah.
Fucker, you remember?
Or maybe it's like an inverse of Hal being a mirror. It's as if man is shining.
Ooh.
Man is shining on them and is reflecting back on Dave's.
Is it Is it reversed on his helmet, or does
Well,
it appear?
It's MEM, so it's a palindrome.
Well, but is the E?
Oh, no, it's backwards, but I mean, it's legible.
It is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's cool.
That's memory.
It gives you the reflection. Yeah.
So it's so it's backwards. So it's like a distorted inverse use of memory coming out of Hal. Yeah. Friggin'
Stanley Kubrick.
Right? Like, you messed me up, man. Like, what the heck? So yeah, and then Hal kills the sleeping crew. Again, I don't really know why he does this. He doesn't really need to. I don't really know why he kills the sleeping crew, because it seems like they're no threat to him. They're just going to wake up when they arrive at Jupiter.
And it's like the only thing I can think, but it goes against him not being sentient, is fear.
Yeah.
Like, not concerned about, like, oh, this might mess the mission up, but ooh, he could wake them up. Like, just that. But I don't see him doing that.
Yeah, and plus, like, if to him, Dave's already dead. Like, Dave's locked outside. Dave can't come in. Whatever. Like, Dave's dead to him, and he's like, I'm just gonna go ahead and kill all these sleeping people. Maybe because he can't tell the difference between a sleeping and an awake human. Maybe they're just all threats to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that, and then it's like, well, these pods they're in, it's eating up this much oxygen, this much, energy. If I'm going to get to Jupiter, if I'm going to optimize this mission,
maybe it's just optimization. Very clinical thing. Oh, I don't see. Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, I mean, so symbolically, I can maybe just him, I don't know, destroying their memory again, just like him being an anti or a distorted version, him destroying the memory.
And Dave sketching them, that was him.
Yeah, that was him keeping them in memory. And then I guess Hal is doing the opposite. He's destroying the memory, which is funny because that's how he dies, right? His memory is destroyed. So he refuses to let Dave in. Dave lets. It's great because he can't do anything with Frank, so Dave ceremoniously just kind of lets him.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah, respectfully.
Yeah, respectfully, right? He doesn't just and he goes in through the emergency airlock. This is great. He goes in again. He goes into his memory storage. And it's really Hal lies. He straight up lies. He's like, everything would be fine, Dave. Just stop, Dave. Everything can return back to normal, Dave. This is it's really creepy, last ditch, because he knows there's nothing he can, because he's totally disembodied. He can't do anything to stop Dave.
Yeah. This is where Hal wishes he had turret cameras in every corner of every fucking room.
And again, it's like the watering hole again, right? It's like this guy without a bone took over Dave's watering hole, and then Dave comes back with a bone, but this time, it's like
screwdriver.
His bone, and starts just taking his memory one by one.
Yeah,
one by one, taking his memory. And it's such a sad it's such a sad
scene. He regresses.
You can tell when he's when Hal's just I want to sing you a song, Dave, and he's just he's singing to me, and he's just oh, that's kind of sad, man.
It's the potential. It was a beautiful thing, but all the fucking nastiness we embodied in it, you done fucked up. You got to get you.
Then,
you can't
again. The only thing stopping mankind from evolving at this point, because mankind would not have evolved if Hal would have killed Dave, right? So the only thing in the way is the fact that some things should not be remembered, or so some things should just You know what I mean? Again, Kojima, right? Like that's like the whole main theme of the entire Metal Gear saga is some things are not worth keeping, some things are not worth passing on. And
Right.
again, this technology is built up as this big ultimate bone, and you know what? We got to shed that, and by doing so, taking out all those distorted memories.
Yeah.
Which is very sad. Soon.
So, man, at this point, I hope I'm not jumping up too far, but so he disables Hal,
mm-hmm.
and like he didn't like sit there and try to like restore comms or anything. He fucking blasted off to Jupiter to finish his mission.
Right.
Like a fucking gangster, dude.
Like,
no Hal.
Yeah, no Hal.
I'm gonna coast
myself.
Yeah, that's what it's. Oh man,
that is true. I didn't even really thought of that. He's just like, no, that's perfect. Yeah, he takes care of Hal. He disconnects Hal. The video plays that would have played for everyone if they would have actually made it. And yeah, he makes it to Jupiter, with his giant, sperm-shaped. He's created this giant sperm-shaped thing next to this giant egg-shaped Jupiter. It's just that's pretty blatant, man. And you see the monolith floating, and it's great because you can't determine its size, right? Like it could be the same size as all the other ones, but we're in space, so that thing could be the size of a moon or something. Like it's just this, and it's a gate, so it could be enormous. I don't know. It's just interesting fact that we don't know how big that final gate is. But yeah, you get another alignment of all Jupiter's moons. And then I love this scene because it's like you see him get out in his pod and he flies towards the monolith, and the camera pans up from the alignment, and then like it splits, and then craziest scene ever happens.
That's so cool.
Let's see. Cool. Yeah, it's so great. Like it starts with the vertical. This is interesting because it starts with the vertical split, like the vertical monoliths. And then starts horizontal, just like the final monolith. And then you see right before it pans up and you go to the Stargate, the horizontal meets up with the vertical alignment of the planets, which makes a cross. Which, I mean, in mythology, like that's called like an axis mundi, which is like the center point of the cosmos. So it's just like a beautiful imagery of like boom. So that's why the cross is just powerful imagery in general. But yeah, like they fly into it. It starts vertical, begins
that's cool.
to go horizontal. Let's see. And then this is my interpretation. He starts seeing like time go by from super fast from the beginning of the entire universe. So it starts Big Bang and goes creation of the galaxy, of the Milky Way, then creation of the sun, and eventually creation of the Earth. And then you start to see like the weird colored versions of like what looks like Earth, all weird.
Yeah.
You see those like weird like 7 diamond shaped objects, and they look like they have like
like
they have like they have a Stargate in each facet.
Yeah, do you think that's like the fucking monoliths? Like,
yeah, maybe that's
next
the actual
level.
Yeah, or maybe those are the intelligence itself. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And they sent us their mirrors.
Yeah, maybe they're like the drones, right? It's their drones. So yeah, from my perspective, he gets hit with like the history of the universe at once, right? And he's like super terrified. He's just like, what the hell? Ah! And I love the blinking eye of like the changing perception filters. Just boom back.
Yeah, he's just
boom back.
Getting information. Yeah,
and he's back. Yeah, right. Or it's just like I like because it's like changing. It's like a perception filter. I think it's a good idea for him to like use color changing for the eyes, because it's like it's like the universe isn't changing right now. He's just viewing it differently.
Right. Yeah.
Which will I can go into further here in a little bit, but like it's the next evolution. My point of view is like more of an evolution of perception. But we'll get into that. All right, so he finds himself in that weird room. Weirdest thing about that room, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but the floor of that room is the exact same as the roof on the space station.
Oh no, it didn't.
I don't know if that's meant to be a visual inversion of like the world, like the old world is now flipped upside down. I don't know, but it's interesting that it's just like just flip now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, he. I love this scene. This is one of my favorite scenes like ever. Like, this is so great. He's in the pod. He's in the pod, like terrified. And he looks out and he sees himself looking back at himself, but old. And in a great smooth transition, like the camera POV changes to the older.
Yeah, and that's it for young.
And then you get it from his point of view, and he's looking, and the pod's gone. Everything's gone. So it's like here, even like time is shifting in a weird way here, just like how he just saw the birth of the universe happen. Also, I didn't mention like the whole scene of like what looked like the universe coming into existence and planets forming. It looks exactly like conception, like again with like the sperm ship flying into the gateway, and then next thing you see is all these bright lights, and then you see like what looks like a fetus being formed, and like these weird like blob things. It's like, I don't know, space baby being born, basically.
Yeah. Birth. Yeah.
Birth of the universe. The birth of the universe is. It's like he's making the connection between the birth of the universe and the birth of every life form. It's the same. In some weird hippie way.
It's really, it can't be him. He's not the space baby because
I think he is.
He's like a parent to it, man. Because he's gone. Because in 2010, dude, his conscious, like, spoiler alert, his consciousness, like, it like acknowledges that, dude. Well, not his consciousness.
He's not the same, but it's like he's not the same. He's not the same, but he's the same. He's Dave. He's just baby Dave.
Yeah.
But yes, and then he looks again. He looks in a mirror and notices how old he's become. And he looks to his left and sees an old man eating dinner. The old man looks behind him and gets up and walks towards the camera, and the camera pans behind him or cuts behind him, and there's no one there. I don't know. I just love the way the POV shots are like, it's all transitional.
Dude,
just like this.
It's like a what do they call it? The baton race where they hand it off.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
your turn.
Life is, yeah.
Normally in life, it takes you 20 years of experience and time, and and then so you're cool with it. You're like, all right, I'm 20 years older. But this poor fuck, like it's like he turns it up, but he accepts it. He looks, there's nothing there. He's like, all right.
Yeah, I have a different concept on that, which goes into memory, which evolution of like the perception of memory and how time works, basically. So yeah, he sees himself. One of my favorite shots ever is like him as an old man eating. He's wearing like black clothes, and just like that catty corner shot from above of him just eating. Oh, there's something about that composition. It's great. He's eating real food. The first time we ever see a human eat real food. The whole movie we watch them eat shitty space food. And he's like there eating like a steak, right?
Yeah.
But he moves his arm and knocks a wine glass over, which is really great. Because it's like he knocks it over, it breaks, which is just a great like symbol of him. He's getting older and older, and it's like a symbol of like the frailty of, you know, the human body, right? Because I mean, he knocks over a wine glass, a frail little vessel that holds wine, which is usually connected to blood, which is life. So it's like that little glass of wine was him. So he knocks it over, breaks.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to, well, he looks up and it cuts to him in his deathbed, right? So this is. It's not that I think this is all just like, it's almost like reverse. I feel like all that's been happening since he got to that room has been a backwards remembrance of what's been happening. It's like an inverse of remembrance. It's like for instance, when he breaks the glass and looks up and sees him on his deathbed, that's him looking up at himself in the future, but it's also him on his deathbed remembering that one time he broke the glass. So it's like, in remembering that instance is also the same moment it actually happened, because time is compressed. So my theory is like this, wherever he is.
Oh yeah, he's transcended time.
Yeah, he's transcended time. So whenever he thinks of something, it happened, and also
but it's happening.
Is not happening, and it's also happening at the same time.
Yeah. It's like, oh god, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's super cool, because like you see it every time, because it's like, you're like when he goes up and sees his old self eating dinner, his old self eating dinner looks back like, what was that? So his younger self, he saw his old self, but also what happened at the same time was, in the future, he thought he heard something and turned around and there was no one there.
So it's like, it's almost like, it's not this, but it's like on one end of it, young Dave is catching up to Deathbed Dave, and Deathbed Dave is looking back at how that happened, and the Daves in between, and even those two Daves are also experiencing what's happening, but it doesn't matter because time doesn't exist, and you're gonna fucking.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's all happening at the same time anyway. Yeah. He's in his deathbed, and I love this because he points up again, pointing upwards, as that he is on the bottom and he wants to go upwards, just like the monkeys, just like men going to the moon. He points upward and he sees the monolith, and this time there's no creepy music, there's no screaming, warbling noise. This is the only time we see a monolith, and it's quiet because he understands it. Whatever it's saying, he's ready. He understands it. And I love it. He's holding his hand up, and it cuts to a side POV of like the bed and then the monolith, and he's pointing upwards, and he's super far away from it. But then it switches. This is why I think it's all about perception, because all it takes is a shift of perception, and instead of being far away from the monolith pointing at it, now he's actually touching it.
Pointing at it. Yeah.
And his finger in frame is touching it. So it's all just a matter of perception. If he just, now he's able to control his perception, he's actually touching the monolith. Again, without technology, without something covering his hand, right? Like, he's able to touch it now.
Ooh.
Pretty great.
That's pretty awesome, dude.
Shoots back to the monolith, close up, shoots back to the bed. Now he's a floating blue orb. Oh, I totally forgot to mention this. This is something, I should have said this at the beginning. But one thing I noticed, man, this is really weird, but never in the entire movie, when they show Earth, they never show any continents. Never.
Oh.
It's always blue. Everything is blue. The whole Earth is just blue. Super weird. But I was going to say that in the beginning because it shows the space baby. And then it cuts back to the monolith. It zooms into it. I love this because it like zooms into it, and it's just like this black canvas, and then it jumps cut to the black canvas of the universe with stars. It's like boom, bam. Now you're in. Pans down from the moon back to Earth, and you see the blue orb of the space baby right next to the blue orb of the Earth. I'm pretty sure he made the Earth as blue as he possibly could to make it like the space baby
Right.
and the Earth are one in a sense. Like he came, like it's like his womb or something like that. But it's really interesting that like he doesn't show any green. There's no green. There's no brown. It's just blue. There's no continents. Super weird.
I was going to ask you. I'm glad you said green. I forgot I forgot I was going to ask you this. So on his deathbed, you know, it's the white room, you know, the glass and the pretty basic. But why is it so green? Why is his headboard? It looks like an earthy green, like a forest green. There's no way it's a fucking coincidence. It's Stanley Kubrick, man.
Yeah.
But it's darker green. It's like
I don't remember that. Yeah, I don't remember that.
It's green.
It's as
it's
if
like mossy green, dude. Like he's laying down with, but I couldn't figure out why that would be. But when you said there's no green on the Earth, it's like, oh,
now, like he's like lying on the continent that was missing before, right?
That bed always got me. I was like, this is not just like, you know, because this was shot, you know, whenever it was shot. It's it's intentional.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now, actually. Yeah, it's like it is a green. It's like a grayish kind of green. Yeah, it's interesting because there's not a lot of green in the movie, and there's definitely not any green on the Earth.
Yeah, even on the Earth,
yeah, interesting. It's the space baby, and then you know the thus spake Zarathustra plays again, and then this is really great because the you know, it's like this triumphant music plays, and then the camera kind of pans with the space baby and this, and just like the ape staring at the audience, space baby is like staring like right through the screen, right? He's like staring right through the monolith, right through your little monolith. You're watching it on. He's staring right at you. And then it cuts to black, and then what do they play? They play the waltz, which again starts the cycle again, right? So like I don't know. The way I see it is like this isn't the final step for humankind. It's just like this never-ending kind of hierarchy of just better and better. Because like you think like, oh, this, because like you see like when you get from the apes and you get to the humans with their space stations, you're like, wow, look how great! Nothing can get better than this. Listen to this music. Look at these space stations. Like, wow. And then later in the movie, it's like, look at this space baby. He transcended time. Nothing can get better than this. And it's like,
yeah. But that's and that's as far as that can go, because like you have to tip your hat to the book, the film.
I need to reread the book.
Dude, it's like it saw again ahead of its time, and it projected all this shit. How many years later is it now? What, 50, 60 years later?
Yeah.
We still aren't space
60
babies.
years.
We're not going to be space babies for a while. Like, how do you know this shit, man? Like, what the hell? Pretty awesome.
But like, you know, like it's not. It's just like, and you can just apply this to like just even like smaller scale like evolution, like even like social evolution or like cultural evolution. Like, usually the thing that's in our way is ourselves, and usually our not really dependence, more like misuse and distrust of each other is always going to be in our way. And if we don't get rid of that, then we can't get to the next step. But we shouldn't be so high and mighty when we get to the next step, because that's not the end.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I want to watch it now.
Well, yeah, that went on longer than I expected, but that's okay.
It was good, yeah.
You have any closing comments?
Anybody that heard me talk about 2010, don't watch it expecting it to be like
Kubrick 2.
Yeah, no. It's
yeah. Because I remember watching it once and being like, it had that one guy from Was he in Jaws?
So cool.
Or
I know
was
who
he
you're
in
talking about.
Jaws? Yeah, that little
Yes.
guy, the short guy. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I like that guy.
Yeah, and it had the that Russian dude that's in all the movies that have a Russian guy. I can't remember his name, but he's cool. Yeah, it's a cool movie, man. It definitely adds to like any kind of questions you have about the original movie and all that, but it's not the same cinematography or pacing or anything like
and
that.
Plus, it's like it comes from a different. It comes from like a different parentage, because it's like you have the movie 2001 and then you have the book, which are born at the same time, and then you have the sequel books over here, and then you have the movie based on the sequel book, and then you have the movie over here. So it's like a cousin of the original movie.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the best way to look at it. Yeah, it's a cousin,
like
it's not
a
a brother.
nephew or something. Yeah. Alrighty, man. Well, thanks for joining me tonight.
Man. Let's do a THX. You want to do that?
Oh yeah, man. That's a cool idea. That's a cool idea. That's a crazy movie. I haven't seen that in probably like 10 plus years.
Ooh.
It's a crazy movie. I remember watching it and being like, "This is the guy who made Star Wars."
Yeah. Like, wait, what?
All right. Yeah. Awesome. So thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully, you'll see a review of our analysis of THX. What is it? 1138, right? That's the numbers. THX 1138. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching whatever this show is called. If I have a title for it, I'm going to put it in right here. Later. Yeah. Be sure to watch this on your nearest monolith. All right. Good night, my friends.